To order at 7:17 PM. All right, did everyone get the meeting minutes James sent out earlier for,
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience with travel. Myself, I was a little delayed in getting those executed. But those should hopefully all be together and have everything. I went back through it again to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
did we decide we were voting or we're just kind of,
We would, yeah.
Motion to approve the minutes. April meeting.
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, so we want to discuss the feedback that we received from everybody based on the sketches that we got from GRLA.
Do you
Andrew,
want the larger plans? I can do.
oh, if you have them, yeah, I have the little ones, but,
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Andrew
Keep going.
went over, he showed his staff, gave them all a chance to provide feedback. He collected all of their feedback individually and then presented it to us. And then we had a meeting with him, and James and I had a meeting with Andrew and Tara and kind of just went over it and kind of condensed it into a one-page document. Hold on, I just see, it's probably easier if he has that's 111, and this is one. It's still one. Yes. Oh, no, that's two. Two. I saw the one there. All right, scheme two. There we go. Scheme one. That's the last. And basement. Okay. Andrew will have the bigger ones, but I think overall, people leaned more towards liking scheme two. There was not a lot of difference between the two of them. But it's as far as what they were doing constructually, I think they were very similar. But overall, I'm just getting,
There you go.
all right,
Another one from you.
okay. So basically,
You know, I think it's got stable.
yeah, that's fine. So basically what we decided was, based on everyone's feedback, we said overall, all 3 floors need to be ADA compliant. Oh, is that scheme two?
Yeah, sorry.
That's right. Overall, all 3 floors need to be ADA compliant. The lift should definitely access all 3 floors. We want to include details of fire prevention based on the additional square footage being added to the current facility. Basically, what that means is we had discussed whether or not we could almost keep them as 2 separate buildings. But to avoid having to deal with fire prevention as far as adding, because if we have to add sprinklers, it's not just over there with throughout the whole building. As you know, and then that requires putting in a tank. But then we've made the decision that overall, it's going to be better if we have the sprinkler system because it's, you know, we have books and we have very expensive things and, you know, so overall, we asked them to include that as a part of the whole scheme because we thought it was an important in our proposal when we do have to present it. We asked them to identify a location for the potential underground storage tank, for that reason. We asked to make sure that the basement is a walkout basement similar to this. Since that would be the only handicapped access to the, well, not totally, but the handicapped access to the inside, they could come in through the basement. They can always come in through here and go over, and then there'd be a ramp to get into the building. We asked that, we, two additional, so in this scheme, they have, the basement floor, they have a kitchenette on the, as well as on the first floor. We didn't feel that it was necessary to have 2 kitchenettes. So we said, let's change this kitchenette and let's make it, additional storage. We also asked that on the first floor, that we just kind of rename some of the stuff. So for the main space, we want them to title this program/community space, because we feel like this is the largest area of space. So Tara as well and Andrew felt, we all agreed that this is probably a bigger area, better for program space. However, we also suggested that, that this continued to be called, oh no, we were gonna call that storage.
Well, don't ignore this.
Oh, that's your notes.
Whatever we have on here.
Hold on, first
Sorry.
floor meeting.
It's got written on.
No, that was gonna stay program/community space.
So both of them would be a program /
There would
community
be
space.
some storage maybe in the front part here, but outside of that.
Yeah, so both of these would be program / community space, because then they could be interchangeable, used interchangeably for programs or community, whatever was needed.
And the idea being here, if this is like a composite floor, or whatever it is, that you can do your kids' messy stuff, which happens.
Yeah.
So like what we have now currently is a situation in which they're doing things and it gets on the carpet and it's a real issue. So if we had something that was a cleanable type of. room-
Right, even if it was not tile, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like,
Exactly.
as opposed to carpeting, and it's easier to wash the floor as opposed to.
Maybe
Activity.
the kitchenette, that kitchenette and
So-
not the one downstairs.
Right.
Correct, so the kitchenette would stay,
Sink be handy.
yes.
Oh, yes.
So there would be a kitchenette here,
Right.
and then a restroom.
Yeah.
So, and then there would still be a restroom on this level, on the basement level. This would just go away. So, and become storage.
Mhm.
So the utility closet stays as is, because that's going to be, it's an existing use right now with the heat and everything else. This would all be community space and then storage, and then there'd be additional storage over here.
Yep.
So this also adding this to be storage, we figured this would be a good spot, or this one, for friend storage, because then they could go right out the back and up and around, if, you know, for a book sale or to the back parking lot, or whatever the case may be. So we thought that was gonna be a good change there. First floor. First floor office meeting room, we're just gonna ask them to change this to also storage. Because we didn't feel like there needed to be another office here, is that correct?
Yeah, and the other premise there is if we're gonna have a bunch of programs or community activities, we're gonna need space to have chairs, tables, the things that they're gonna use during those programs.
Things you can roll out.
Easily
Yeah.
accessible, because as we see from our, evaluation of how many different programs we run, whether it's for the kids or anything else, there's stuff happening daily. So to
Right.
have easy access to it,
Right.
it's just
Right,
makes smart.
you know, maybe you have
Makes
some
sense.
over here, some over there, and you can, if you're gonna still use some here, we could have a small amount here and have the majority of it over there. So you weren't trying to truck them back and forth between the two. But we felt like that was a good area to do that as well. On the second floor, we said we're gonna change, second floor storage, which they put as second floor storage, we're gonna change it to study room and have it be,
Multiple.
or multiple little study cubicles,
We don't have any place.
something
here.
of that.
Quiet space.
Quiet space, exactly.
And tutors can use,
Yeah,
just students.
and then, second floor office, we're gonna change to, again, community meeting space. So this is community meeting space, this will also be community meeting space, this will just kind of be a sitting area. Unless we can think of something, another way to utilize that.
And my question was like, how many study rooms can you get out of this? If not, it might have to move into part of this, you know what I mean? So.
So you do not need any more office space because you just eliminated all of it, haven't you?
Right, so the idea, like, if we wanted to have like a staff meeting, my thought was, you have the meeting area here, which hopefully will have a setup that's very much like this.
Yep,
And that we can have, that's kind of closed and offsite. So I think that if we were gonna do meetings going forward,
Mhm.
it would be nice to use that area. Now, do we need an office over there?
well, I think what,
My question is, who would use the office?
so right now,
Andrew has an office and Tara has an office.
Right.
And it's cramped because we don't have storage, but if we take all the storage out of Andrew's office and out of Tara's office,
yeah, it's a lot.
they're gonna be dancing in there. And none of the other people really requires or needs an office.
So currently, in
The other thing-
the staffing that we have right now, you're right, no one else needs an office. However, down the road,
Yeah.
we might have an assistant director that may or may not be Tara as a PB
Adult services.
or adult services
Stuff.
librarian or something. So in which case, we may have to figure out the office space. They may require an office, but we don't have that now, and we don't, it's not necessarily in the next year's plan, but it might see something down the road that does happen.
And do recall,
I feel like there was
The
something that we talked about.
well, the lift goes to all three.
Goes to the-
Dylan did a great job pointing that out, making
Yeah.
sure that we
Yeah.
were really where we need to be.
Right.
And that's gonna cut a good chunk out of this.
Will take.
Right,
office.
Oh, right, so Andrew
Whoever
knows that,
adds
yeah,
for-
right, yeah. Yeah.
So, the other thing to think about is, if you want to flip back to the previous first floor. This whole area is where the genealogy room is currently. Wait, is that
Yep, I believe you're right.
right? And so that's gonna move down to into this area here, which is currently storage. So that storage is gonna have to have a home.
Sure.
So we have to remember that all of that in there is going to need to go
So like
somewhere.
in this, like right behind.
Yeah.
Right behind us, that's all storage.
But there's also janitorial stuff, there's
Oh, yeah, I know.
cleaning supplies, so he
Yeah.
does not have his own
Yeah,
space.
he doesn't have space,
So-
we've got 3 different types of
I
things
know,
in
we
there.
should have.
Yeah.
There's programming stuff
And
in
not
there,
necessarily
there's the
the area.
janitorial stuff, there's also the books in there.
There's also.
So it's like, it's just all combined, wow, together.
Right,
So we, because that room will become the genealogy room, because upstairs there is really gonna become like a pass-through to the ramp.
right.
Yeah, so
We're
we
gonna
have
need to
the,
have storage space.
we lose
Yeah.
space in our current
It's gonna need to
genealogy.
go Somewhere over in here, probably.
But the only other thing that Tara and Andrew had mentioned about the genealogy room, if we did move it downstairs, we need to make sure it's climate
Climate control.
controlled and,
Could the genealogy room go in the new space?
I thought about that. It's possible. I guess the question is like, we need to measure out like how much space is that and like where could it go? I could maybe go to the second floor, but I don't know
I
how
feel like
much
it's
space that
bad
is.
enough. It's the lack of use to it right now, I feel like would get even more lost if it was now suddenly on the second floor of a building that doesn't get used that much. The second floor doesn't get used that much.
We'd also.
I don't
need to
know,
make-
that would be
we'd
my
also need to be
concern.
a present, more of a presence over there. Not that there wouldn't be anyway, because occasionally somebody's gonna need to do walkthroughs on that upper floor where the study rooms are, because you
Yeah.
just need to.
Correct.
Um,
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, if it was over there, you'd still be doing walkthroughs anyway.
Cool part, all that being said, this is still a feasibility study. So this is still
Oh, definitely.
baseline design
Right.
and the,
Right.
like, as a great example, while you were talking through this and we talk about the need of access through the genealogy room,
Mhm.
there may end up being space over there where we can build out a closet for all the janitorial stuff.
Sure.
Like, we may be able to maximize certain usage of the way a core moves or some extra space somewhere.
Yeah, good
But we
point.
won't we won't see all that, and we won't have all those specific answers when we come to what our final solution is out of the feasibility study.
True.
And do the staff have an area where they can put their coats and boots, and do you have one now?
When you walk in, there's. We have nothing. We're eating we're eating in public. We have no place where, I have a drawer that is,
for a folder
So
where I
that's-
put my pocketbook.
So, but to your point, that's, I mean, that's something to be considered, but I don't know, have we really eliminated anything like that now in the plan?
Well, we can change, we can, when we evaluate those things, it's okay to say, you know, the second floor or whatever space we choose is primarily for staff, but we can use it for other things as needed. Or if we say, as we're moving things from here, maybe we identify that there's a spot that now becomes, you know,
Like a break.
a break room here
Right.
on this side.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, if we do the kitchen with the program space, maybe we could, even if it was just like a closet with locks maybe, where we could just put in our pocketbooks and, you know, that would be an option. And then
Sure.
have our, if we need to sit down and have a lunch, if we're staying longer.
Yeah,
Something
it's a-
you wouldn't have to need
Can be transformed
Yeah.
room.
into.
Yeah, you're right, because having a kitchenette there, I mean, it's gonna have a fridge in,
Yeah.
so it'd be nice to be able to drop your lunches in.
Yeah,
at the same
exactly. Yeah, instead of bringing your own water from home because you have no access to it. Because by the time I'm up there, people are like, yeah. No, I'm not, it's
Well,
not
I agree,
complaining,
it should be
it's not
more than one,
complaining.
there should be more than one water cooler.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
No, I understand, I agree.
It's okay to complain.
No, I'm not complaining, it's not good.
It's a good thing. I complain all the time, no one listens, it's hard.
But I agree, I didn't never thought of the janitorial closet, that's something that should be, that stuff should be separate. It really shouldn't be in the mixer with everything else.
It takes a part of he's encroaching into my our space, and then I just push the stuff back.
What a territorial thing.
There's territorial things going, I'm sure I'm not just store the toilet paper.
Well, if you guys agree, what we can do is I can add in a couple extra bullets of discussion of potential staff storage area
Yeah,
and then potential closet for janitorial service or something like that. So that as they look at the design, because they're gonna be working with real specific numbers, like this is this square footage in this, and we could use this way. They may have a very smart, simple solution that we're not gonna see, but it'll force them to be like, oh, we can do that, let's just put it here. And that's actually the cool
Because
part
it's
of it.
like, it's a closet, it's the janitorial stuff, is a closet, it's not like it's a big, it's not like it's a big room like that.
Mhm.
We can,
Let me ask you a question about the design of this building.
Mhm.
So was the workroom initially intended to be a workroom / break room, right? But it got so filled with stuff that that's like impossible.
yeah, I mean, could you eat at the counter that's back there? Sure, I've done
Yeah,
that.
but you have to stand there and eat,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly. That was the intention we had. Remember we said that table in there?
Mhm.
The table was going to have chairs and it just never happened because there were just too many things that we needed.
And then
should
you can't
be in there.
So if you
right.
want to, you cannot have chairs. I mean, when do we sit? Ever?
No,
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I don't.
have to
Yeah.
for things.
Yeah, because it's a lot.
All right. All right, different.
You don't sit, but you do. No, I.
But yeah, if you're at the certain
It's
desk,
just,
like when I'm at the certain, yeah.
I mean, based on that, I'm sure I'm big enough to even put a little table in, but. It would say 100
What's
square
that?
feet.
Oh,
but it's, so like we're saying we're removing, you know, a office or something like that, but it's, and that's gonna become storage. But again, like they're looking at it and saying, hey, you know, if we take this, you know, 20 square
yeah.
feet of, if this is not gonna be an office, well, then it doesn't have to meet X requirements, 20 square feet can be that closet. Now, within your storage, you have a separate closet that's just for janitorial stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
The back wall or a section of, you know, the extra space to the far right could be all, you know, like lockable lockers or a little,
Mhm.
because that's a,
It already says storage. So it's not
Yeah,
like-
well, I
Well,
was
there's-
just thinking too, you know, we had this storage area in the back, but we cannot use it.
Yeah.
It has electrical stuff.
Sure, yep.
So when somebody walked in, they said, you cannot have all of the stuff here. So we have a lot of wasted space there just because electrical is
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
So you can dance around your
Mhm.
electrical boxes, but you cannot do anything else there.
Got enough for a cha-cha?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have the same kind of issue, or will that, all that stuff, like,
So for my understanding of the layout for electrical and the rest of the services, the majority will be in the basement, in that kind of where the current column for the stairs comes down, there's already a panel and everything right there. So it would be
Yeah,
Honestly, right over here at this side of the kitchenette, and then the other parts we know is gonna be here.
Yeah.
We can ask, because this is already designed as a utility closet, then all
There is-
your power routing come into here.
there is room in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's just, the one side has the tank on it and that's pretty much it. Like, anything else in there.
So
would
maybe they
be
can-
tank or whatever.
Maybe they could do that.
Outfit,
That's,
utility.
Yeah.
Mechanical.
Yeah.
that's easy. So I think the big question is, for us, are there other changes or other things that have come up that we haven't captured? Or
In our list.
Do you remember anything else? I don't remember anything in particular. I just know that we wanted to maximize storage.
Right.
Have the program space, the program room, as well as the two community spaces.
And the
Um,
friend storage,
Friends, storage, yeah, friends, janitor, staff,
yeah.
storage. And then I think, the thing that was the most recent thing was to talk about study rooms on that platform, which I think would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and that's 197 square feet, that's a good space.
it's definitely a couple little, I mean, either one large study room or a couple dividable,
Right.
Or maybe it's a way that you have the ability, like dividers, that you could set up for
Yes.
3 or 4, and then if you needed the whole space, they can, you know what I mean?
Glass door, like
They-
one of those big
Yeah.
slides. And then it's easy to see through, so when you walk by, you can see everything.
Right,
They
that's
even
like they have in
Oh,
college dorms, they have those, their study rooms, but they're all glass, so anybody walking by can see who's in there.
We even have standalone units now, so that even if you didn't have a room, it becomes a room and it actually just sits there. So I mean, there's a lot of different options.
And we're putting doors on everything here, aren't we, so that we can keep the noise inside?
Yeah, I mean, yes,
The
absolutely.
goal.
What a very smart question.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, everywhere from one room to the next would have doors. That's my take anyway.
And it's for fire code perspective, you need fire breaks anyway, so you have to have either automatically closing doors or ones that can, ensure that you retain the fire in a section for a period of time, so.
Can they get doors for the restroom that aren't as
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
It's so heavy.
I've never heard
Anybody
anybody
try
trying
getting in there in a wheelchair, I guess.
No, those,
They are pretty heavy. I mean,
those
like
things
the
are
thing,
really
the spring
heavy.
loaded or whatever it is.
And I get that, but even the fact that, I've seen spring-loaded doors like that hard to open. God forbid you're carrying something, or like she said, in a wheelchair. I don't know, it's gotta be ADA compliant, or they wouldn't have done it, but it just,
Right.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
no.
Maybe they could swap those doors though.
Would we like that? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a kid in there and can't get out.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, right? Although it's easier to push it open than it is to pull it open, but still. Not just a thought.
So I guess the question that I have is, do we need to vote to say, yes, we agree with this, and that's what we want to present to GLRA as next for scheme 2, or because we've kind of already had that open discussion, we're good? I don't know.
Do we need to vote on that?
I mean,
I
think we can just.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just mentioned about
It's-
financial concern.
So you want to just make a couple of minor edits to
Yep.
this one,
I
and then we
already-
can send it along?
Yep,
Okay.
cool. Awesome.
Yeah, this one I didn't mark anything. That's just-
And some of was just based on like how they worded what the space was gonna be. We're just asking them to change the name of it so that when we do get to the point that we're presenting this feasibility study to whoever we have to present it to the next step, I don't know if it's the select board or what the next step is, at least we can present it as this is more program/community space, you know what I mean? And kind of make it more of a welcoming to everyone, kind of, instead of having to be like, well, we need 2 kitchenettes because
Right.
we want to cook up a storm and one of the ones cook for everybody.
I would use volunteer.
So I think that actually leads us on to what our next steps.
Yeah,
really
that's a
are.
good question, good point.
We have to finalize this and get this back to GLRA here in short order.
Yeah.
So I will add the two edits, and
Yeah.
get it back to you two so
Okay.
that you can release, and you'll have it by tomorrow. to do
Okay,
that.
that's fine.
Andrew, you brought up something during the
Oh,
library meeting about the billing side.
Yeah, so they,
Oh, yes, thank you.
they sent us I mean, we received from the state the first half of the award, which is great because the first invoice we received from GRLA covered pretty much all of that.
Okay,
So then for their April work, which was the floor plans, schematics, they sent another invoice for $8,400. And I believe that means, let me think. Let's see, the first one was 12, so I think there's should be another 4,000 that they haven't designated yet, but I'm assuming they will.
Mhm.
My thought was, because it looks to me like I need to submit the invoices to the state, I mean, as proof of work done.
Mhm.
I would almost like them to send me their final invoice so that I can get this squared away to reimburse them. I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that.
I think it's smart. So they came in eyes wide open. They knew what our fiduciary restrictions or limitations were. And they bid on it based on that.
Right.
So,
And their proposal to us
Was
states that
25.
$25,000.
so, especially with how short of a timeline we were given
Right.
to execute this, I think it's pretty logical.
Mm.
We briefly touched on this, but I would strongly recommend, especially from the taxpayer's perspective, make sure our town administrator is directly linked in those conversations.
Mhm.
So that if there is a back and forth with the state on a question of execution or whatnot, or if waivers need to be requested,
Mhm.
he's directly in the link and can support you to make sure we don't have any hiccups or potential loss of that funding.
Right. Right.
But I think it's, my opinion, I think it's smart.
So it looks like his fee proposal, which, fixed fee of $25,000 as outlined below is what he says in this. And he basically said that the first one was gonna be $6,000.
Okay.
And then the second one was a total of 14. And then the third was a total of 5, so totaling, all three totaling 25,000.
Okay. A
So
little bit different than the billing.
because it's GRLA plus the MEP, which I believe is the group that does, yes,
Okay.
that does the
The engineering stuff.
engineering part.
And it's quite likely because they got that executed, they were able to move that bill part forward. So that's
Okay.
why you saw a difference in numbers.
Right. So I think it's okay knowing that they've said fixed fee of $25,000, that you can tell them just based on the way you need to submit the invoices, it would be
Yeah.
appreciated.
Appreciate. Obviously submit all of them.
I'm sure they're not gonna care. If they can get their money ahead of time, what are they gonna care, right?
Right.
And they know we're good for it.
Mhm.
Right,
We're not the only type of project of this nature.
right, that they deal with, right, of course.
It's like a compensation for them.
Right. Okay,
So I think that's fine if
Yeah,
you want
I'm gonna
to,
start, I'll get that all rolling.
that's fine,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So once you forward that final to Andrew and I will review it, and then I can send it off tomorrow through my phone.
Perfect.
Oh.
Cause I'll be, oh no, I won't be at work tomorrow. Later tomorrow after graduation, I can send it off through my phone.
Sure.
Or I can have either one of you send it once we, that's fine too. That might even be the easier
I
way.
mean, you let me know who, you want me to.
Yeah, why don't we do that? I'll respond back to you and then I'll let you
Perfect.
send it.
It'll go to Rebecca and to Scott.
Correct.
So we'll give the go ahead and you'll send it to the. to
Sure.
them?
I
Okay.
got it.
All
Yeah.
right, cool, yeah.
And then you could just ask the question about the invoices. I would assume that would go through Rebecca.
Yeah, I can definitely email her. Let her know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
And then when you send that, we'll just get a timeline from them of when they anticipate having a second round of whatever to us and what their next step is from, from that.
Yep.
I think that's fine.
because they're gonna send obviously another set of schematics, but my understanding too would be that they would send all of the other descriptive information on the transformation of that building, kind of like what we had with the previous feasibility study.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was, especially when we sat in that first meeting, he knew exactly what we were looking for.
Right.
And he even had already looked at the old one from,
Right,
2019,
exactly.
2020.
I know he's got some of them.
So he knew exactly, yeah, we'll get a formal document that is.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much where we are. If anybody, like I said, if anybody else has any additional feedback, we're happy to include or discuss, and I think things are going well. We had originally anticipated wanting to get feedback to them sooner to get, to kind of stay on their original timeline. But the more we looked at it, when James and I met with Andrew and Tara last week, that we said, you know what? Our meeting's next week, we might as well just wait, sit with everybody, discuss it with them, instead of, at this point, what's another couple of days? So it was, they're probably sitting back waiting. I think I emailed them. No, I can't remember.
Yeah, you'd had a note with Rebecca back and forth.
Okay, saying that we were gonna discuss it with everybody at the meeting and that we provide feedback once we've finalized everything. Right, it's like.
You're good. We got you. You got graduation, you're fine, no stress.
So, anything else?
Any new topics within the past 48 hours that we didn't anticipate? No new topics?
Mhm.
Then the next thing would be date
Yeah.
for the next meeting?
We just, did the trustee meeting for June 12th, correct?
Give me 1 second. June 12th, correct. Does the 12th work at 7 PM for everyone?
Mhm.
Cool.
Motion to adjourn. Well, thank you.
I've seconded.
All in favor? Recording has ended.
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
Now it has.